There's an indication there something's about 12 feet down. Over that tree line there on the right hand side. A chain fence. We're going to have soggy boots for the second night in a row. Filmed a heap of stories with all the old people yesterday. During World War II, this harbour here was the home of a huge flotilla of American warships. At any one time, there would have been at least 100 warships in this harbour.
While they were here, he told us after the end of war that there were plenty US forces, Allied forces, and there were plenty airplanes flying in the air, and there were many ships.
But time ya hemi secret. Inola utus only man paliluku.
This is a pivotal part of this whole project. This has been nearly 10 years of negotiating with the Vanuatu government.
Just recently, we discovered some of this buried machine, and we locate about 15.
There's a lot of stuff here, a lot of metal anyway. In 2002, I flew a 4-man Cessna to a remote island in the South Pacific. As we landed, hundreds of islanders surrounded our plane and they greeted us as if we were messengers from the gods. The islanders spoke of a time during World War II when fleets of American planes and eventually hundreds of thousands of troops had transformed their island paradise into a staging base for the invasion of Japan. And now they viewed us as a sign that the Americans would one day return. The Americans, however, did abruptly leave the island in 1945 after Japan surrendered. And when they left, however, they buried some 9 million tonnes of military equipment, weapons, tanks, aircraft in secret locations. Such aircraft as the famous P-40 Kitty Hawk today would fetch several millions of dollars each. I returned to the island yearly and I gained the trust of the tribal elders who eventually showed me the locations of where the Americans had buried this treasure. Working with locals and government ministers, I also acquired the exclusive legal rights to dig for this treasure. When the Americans left, they built these huge letters which spelt out USA. And as you can see, I'm standing right here in the middle of the U, and they are bloody huge. They're absolutely ginormous. I mean, they're at least 12 to 13 feet high and at least 50 to 60 feet wide. I'm just over at the top of a concrete bunker. During the end of the war, the Americans, under spotlights at night, they actually diverted this whole river, emptied it out, concrete line to the river, and placed what the locals still believe were machines and vehicles of all different descriptions, and maybe even some ordnance into this river, put a concrete lid on, and then re-diverted the river back. An old World War II airstrip where they had, at any one point, probably up to about 30 or 40 F4 Corsairs parked here, which protected this part of the island. Look what we got here. These rounds are still live. This is where the Americans would have actually opened up the ground. It's my friend Jack, who's been instrumental in helping us find these locations. This actual harbour here, at one stage, would have had at least 100 American warships based in this point here. And just over there, to my left, between the narrowest point, is where they had a submarine net through here. But this whole facility virtually came down to the water's edge and worked its way back up behind us, up to the hill there, with storage facilities, aircraft fuel tanks, naval ship tanks, ammunition yards, weapon supplies. Anything you think of that had to power the American war machine was based at this point here. So up for the clearing at the top of the hill here, apparently was some storage facilities. During World War II, an American soldier happened to discard a cigarette and the whole fuel tank exploded. Probably something the Americans would do. It'd be right in front of you and you wouldn't even know. So we're going up that mound just near the tree there?
Yeah.
Okay.
We found a tractor, an engine of a lorry, and a grader.
This is the World War II airstrip known as Bowerfield. It was actually named after a famous American B-17 bomber pilot. The information that we received regarding this lady who's nearly in her 90s now, who actually grew up, lived there all of her life, witnessed the Americans coming in, all the land being cleared, and having a romance with an American pilot and having a child. So this is a really good step forward for us for this whole project. The lady I was just talking about, Teresa, her property lies just here to the east of the airfield, and it's a huge cattle station property here. Beautiful, beautiful property. And that adjoins right way down onto the boundary fence of the Bower International Airport. This gives us complete clarity and eyewitness accounts that there is definitely stuff buried on her property. Everything the Americans had in this area was buried around this part of the property. So it's an amazing find. I'm just absolutely jumping for joy that we actually happened to come across Dr. Stuart Bedford, who actually told us the story in his own words that yes, Teresa's property